There is nothing wrong with your podcast streaming service. We now control your device. This is not a test. This is Podcast of the Paranormal. Close your curtains and stay away from your windows. Lock your doors, turn off your lights. Get your snacks and drinks ready. Get to your basement or attic. The podcast is about to begin. Hello, everyone. I am Gabrielle.
And I'm Jody.
And we are here with another episode of Podcast of the Paranormal. We don't have Jeff with us tonight. He was not able to record, but we are welcoming a special guest. We have psychic medium Jim Byers. Jim, we would love it if you could introduce yourself and tell our listeners a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Well, thanks for having me, Gabrielle. I appreciate it. For me, I am a psychic medium, and I label myself, because those are two different terms, because there's psychics and there's mediums. And with psychics, this is more about reading energy or getting information upon the person that they're reading. When it comes to a medium, that's more the connecting to the spirit world, communication with people that have passed on. So I call myself a psychic medium because I can do a little bit of both. And sometimes people come in for a reading and they're expecting to get a message from grandma, and they actually get guidance on their life. Because what happens is, for me, when I'm reading someone, I'm picking up where you are right now. And the spirits also know that they can talk to you some other time. Like right now, what's important is you may be getting through a certain transition in your life. Maybe it's job loss, relationship transition, an illness, maybe a certain up or down in your life, emotionally, mentally. Sometimes the spirits can know because they watch over us. They're around us and they know that we're hurting or we need something else. We need a change. So let's tell Jim how you can progress here because they know you better than I do.
That's interesting because you specifically brought up sort of like liminal times, right? That's when you have these experiences, right? When something's really heavy going on in your life and you're in between maybe a job transition. Or you're in a transition space.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool.
And they can feel that and they know that it's more important right now to help you. Maybe they come through a little bit or maybe not at all. And they just tell me, hey, Jim, they need to socialize more or they need to see their worth or they need to try and, make a career of that one thing that they really love. So sometimes it's, spirits, a family who have passed away, and sometimes it's just spirit guides. Because I'll say they, but I can tell the difference between a spirit guide and, someone who's, someone's grandmother, because I can feel that stronger bond. And, that's one thing that happens too, is sometimes someone wants to come in and hear from their dad and I'm getting Uncle Billy. And for me, sometimes I feel that occurs because maybe they're not ready for dad. And it's kind of like, like a rock concert or, a TV show where they have a warm-up act. Well, that's what Uncle Billy might be. He might be just showing himself, making his presence known so that you can, have that experience and not get upset, because that's what happens in some of my sessions. Not that, I'm out to make people cry, but it happens because sometimes they're missing someone so much. Maybe, again, they're going through a transition and they're kind of emotional. Mm-hmm. And, sometimes getting that warm-up act helps you prepare to hear from dad, because maybe if you heard from dad, that might take you a step back. So maybe hear from Uncle Billy, get that warm-up act, get happy, have happy memories, and then maybe the next time your dad comes through. I had a client one time who lost their teenage child to an accidental drug overdose. It was so sad. And she would come with her, I think it was her aunt, and she would say, like, my daughter's coming to everyone except me. And the daughter told me, tell her I'm not coming to her because she's going to take a step back. She's hurting right now, and I'm afraid to show myself because, this is, it's not good for her to be this emotionally upset all the time. So tell her that she needs to heal. And when she heals, that's when I can show myself.
Yeah.
And I'd seen that client a couple times, in a short period of time. And I try not to do that. Sometimes it's hard to gauge certain things sometimes, but I knew that she was hurting and I knew she needed guidance, and I wanted to make that connection. So, she came a couple times in a couple months, and then she called me from somewhere, and I said, you need to stay there for right now. Come see me afterward. Because people have to be prepared for this. I'll get a call from someone to set up an appointment. They're like, well, my dad just died last week. And I'm like, hey,
give it
have
some
you
time.
healed? Are you
Yeah.
are you processing this? Because it's not only the human process of someone passing away, it's also the spiritual process. Because, if you want to just simplify it or break it down to, St. Peter at the Golden Gates up in heaven, there's a process here. Not that it's a religious thing, but I mean, I think of that, or Bugs Bunny or whatever, at the gates, we get welcomed up there, and then there's a transition. We have to do a life review, what we did right, what we did wrong, what did we learn, what would we change? Do we want to stay there and serve? Do we want to come back down here on earth to serve? So that's a process. And, from what I've learned and the information that's been provided to me is that, depending on the person's human life, it dictates how long they're going to be in this life review. If you were a pretty decent person, might have to review a couple things and then you move on and take a breath. I always like the part that's the family reunion, and that helped me through a period when my mom passed away, is knowing that, okay, I'm losing her, but there's people she hasn't seen in a long time.
And if you don't mind me asking, are you Catholic?
I was baptized Roman Catholic.
Okay.
Now I'm just spiritual, and it's just a progression. I mean, I respect it. I would love going to my Graham's Methodist Church. I think there's a difference between those two genres, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, it's a big difference.
Yeah, it is.
It's a lot more laid back because I'm Catholic too, so. Yeah,
and my Graham was pretty involved. I mean, she was in the choral group. She would do their bake sales and their white elephant sales and their little, Friday night plays and stuff like that, when people used to do that stuff. And then we would go along, and just people held a lot of respect for her, and she was very involved. With the Roman Catholic, we just didn't get involved. Yeah. Except for like Sunday school, Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I would imagine you talk to people from all.
I get a couple I get a couple international things here and there.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what I do. I started doing more phone readings this year just because I'm more of an in-person person, and I like that connection, that energy connection. But with the phone, there's always the technical thing. So I always have to I check in with people, a couple hours before, whether they're coming in person or on the phone or Zoom, just to say, hey, make sure everything's charged, make sure you're in a place that's not going to be disturbed and it's quiet, and you have time for this. So I've been doing more phone readings, and I'll get them from different states. And what I do like about that is the fact that I can't see them. And when I do the face-to-face things, you can see that the information that you're providing means something, because there's a certain expression there, whether it's, someone getting emotional, about to tear up a little bit, or someone, a big smile. And then also the I don't understand. You get that range of things. But with the phone, I just, just like I'm talking to you right now, I'm just talking over the phone. I don't do FaceTime. Like I said, I do some Zooms, but the fact that I can't see them, I like that, because then I know it's more genuine, and I'm not that I do this during my in-person readings, but I don't need their facial expressions. I don't need to see them to do this reading.
That's a great point. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah. Well, I've done developmental classes, as time and money allows. And one of our exercises was to, sit down in a chair and read somebody, kind of back to back. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not facing them. And I was able to do that. And so from that point on, I was like, this isn't, I think it's a really great test, because again, you're not, you don't see the facial expressions. You're just going by what's coming through and what you feel. And that's how a lot of my readings go, is just, it's so amazing. I wish people could see how I see this, like in my third eye, just the certain perspectives or points of view. And what I see too, I can see wonderful, amazing moments that people share, whether it's a little vacation somewhere, or grandpa teaching their son to fish, graduation, that somebody really worked towards to get there, births, then I've seen deaths too. And I've seen deaths, and I've seen murders too. I did a reading for a family who has someone that's been lost for a long time. And I reached out to them, for more reasons than one. Like, I remember that case when it first started, and it's just been ongoing for decades now. So I was like, well, maybe I can help, because I remember seeing the poster of that person when I go get gas, and it just seemed like this synchronicity thing. So I reached out to them. When I do things like that, I don't charge money, because I'm just not, I'm not doing this. I have to pay the bills. I have to keep the lights on. But, if I was independently wealthy, I wouldn't charge anybody, but there's reality.
Right.
Sure.
But when I reach out to someone, especially in a situation like that, where their loved one has been missing for a long time, I just said, just come. I want to help you. So I was with that person for like 3 hours, because just with all the energy between her and myself, and the person that was missing was just very strong. I actually was kind of, I was a little bit nervous. I wanted to practice the night before a little bit, and that, the person that's missing came to me the night before, which was crazy.
Yeah. Wow.
And so then I picked up the next day with the reading. It was just that much stronger. When I described the girl that I saw the night before, like, she was like, yes, down to the little, I'm going to say, button nose. So I knew I had a good connection. And when I do my readings, one thing that I do tell people is, I do a little intro, just because I like people to know my process, so they know what to expect out of me, and hopefully they can understand the way this comes through. Because it's not a 1 + 1 = 2. It's very fluid.
Yeah, I would
It's not a
imagine.
scientific thing.
Right.
So I just want people to have a good idea, and plus it gives us time to kind of energetically bond. Because if I'm at a fair, you guys have been there. I mean, there's people all over the place.
Yeah.
So I need to connect, and I need them to connect with me. I need them to kind of calm down a little bit too. There's a lot going on at these fairs. But even at my home too, I don't know where they're coming from. Did they just come from some job that they hate? Did they just have to deal with their kids scream? I never know how people are getting here. I don't ask where you're coming from, and they just show up, and hopefully everything was okay on the way here. They didn't get run off the road or anything like that. But I just like people to take a moment to relax, so we can have a really strong connection. I think that's very helpful. So I just go the process of describing how I received the information. And, with the person that I had, volunteered my reading to, is, like I said, it was like a 3-hour reading. It was very intense. And I feel like I saw everything, because that's what I was shown.
When you say you see something, is it visual? Is it like it's overlaid over our environment?
It is visual. That's where I'm strongest. I mean, there's a whole bunch of clairs. There's seeing, there's hearing, there's knowing, there's empathetic feeling, there's, feeling through touch. I think there's like 7 or 8. So, I can get information in most of them. Sometimes I can smell, sometimes I can taste. Sometimes there's good things that smell and other things that don't, so I don't really try to exercise those, because I don't want to be smelling everything that I'm seeing. But if it's important, if it's distinct to the situation or the spirit coming through, then yeah, they'll make me smell it.
This might be a silly question. I hate to interrupt you, but smells. No. What are the top 3 smells you would say? I'm curious.
You mean that I like, or that I get?
That you get.
Okay. One is definitely like grandma's kind of perfume, the nice, soft, flowery stuff.
He's going to say tobacco. I know he's going to say tobacco.
I'll get
smoke.
that. I get that. And sometimes, like, I don't know if they're talking to me or talking about themselves or talking about the person that I'm reading for. You know what I mean? Like, they're trying to tell me to quit. Because sometimes what screws me up too is, like, they'll say Jim, and I'm like, all right, wait, is this me or is this you? And normally I'll say, like, I'm getting the letter J or I'm getting a Jim, and I'm just letting you know, I don't know if they're talking to me or they're, someone will confirm, no, that was my dad's name too. I just had somebody date today here. His dad was Jim and he's Jay and I'm Jim. So sometimes when I get my own name or the smoking thing or something else that I do, good or bad, I have to distinguish, right? Are you just saying, are we buddying up here? Are you just trying to let me know that you know me, or is this something I need to pass on? But back to the smells. Usually like the perfume. Sometimes I'll smell alcohol, and sometimes it's about alcohol on its own. Sometimes it's beer or it's a liquor, or sometimes it's something, because I don't really like the smell of that stuff.
Yeah.
Beer just, anyway, to me, that means there's maybe just like in general substance issue.
Yeah.
because sometimes I'll see somebody with a hand of pills, or I'll see some other paraphernalia or whatever substance, but sometimes alcohol is just like a blanket thing to just say, like, this person, this was their trait. Either they struggled, or this was, the happy grandpa at the barbecues. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's cooking, not one specific food, but if this is, sometimes, I do my work in Wyoming, so I'll get people from Pittston, so there's going to be a lot of Italians coming to see me, and sometimes I'll pick up on their cooking, because that's they're known for cooking.
Garlic and olive oil.
I look at it. Yeah, all that stuff, that stuff will get me. Or again, maybe grandma's cookies or cinnamon buns or something.
Sure,
but
yeah.
I don't get it all the time. I know I was doing a gallery once, which is a 20, 30 people out. I was at a seminar, so they made everybody practice, because that's what you're there for. So there was like maybe 60 people or so. So, with the galleries, if you guys probably seen them on TV and whatnot, but for me, the way that I've been taught is like, it's kind of dwindling it down and filtering it by giving, you give 4 or 5 pieces of information, and you might get 10 hands, and then you give, maybe 3 or 4 more, then it gets to 5 hands, and just kind of filtering it down until you find out who that person is. And I was doing that, and I started to smell asphalt, like a road being milled, and this person's boyfriend, that was his job. So that was him, and I was seeing road work being done too. So I told her, I see this and I smell it. And that identified who the person was. And which brings up another point for me, building off that, is that sometimes it's information like that is, I don't want to say critical, but, very poignant. A lot of people, I think, like, they always want a name, or they need like this piece of information. Like, I'm not going to give you your grandma's shoe size. It's just not going to happen unless it's very important. I'm not going to give you exact details like that. But, I get names, I get numbers that are important. Sometimes it's an address. Sometimes it's a year that's important, or a month, or, a badge number or something. I just give it as it comes to me. I try not to, overanalyze it.
Mm-hmm.
But, I can get numbers, I can get names, I can get the smells. I do read objects, which would be the clairtangency.
That's cool.
Yeah, and that's something that it's called psychometry. So they're kind of intertwined, those two words. Like, psychometry is the study of clairtangency, basically. Because I did a presentation on that up at Lilydale, which is this really, it's really cool. It's this spiritual community. It's like a neighborhood.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I love Lilydale.
Oh, you guys been there?
No.
She always talks about it.
It's cool. Like, when I started in spirituality, people would say, Lilydale, you got to get there. You got to get there. I'm like, I'm expecting this utopian, all these flowers and people, and the streets are filled. And I feel like it's changed a bit. I feel like, COVID changed a lot of things. So people are doing a lot of Zoom stuff from Lilydale. They're doing a lot of, pre-registered RSVP readings, which that's cool. But I just expected, like, it's kind of like this boardwalk kind of thing where you're just walking around and somebody's sitting on their porch, or they have a certain poster and just walk in and get a reading. But it's more organized now, I think. But it's this cool little town, and you just walk through it, and they have, an outdoor area where I don't know if they still do services, but they have done it, and it's really cool to see I'm a history kind of person, so to go in their library and see pictures of some of the famous people that have gone through there, readers or other paranormal investigators and whatnot, and just get the feel of the town. It definitely has a certain feel to it. And they have a little beach there, and there's a hotel that you can stay in, and it's just a really, I liked that I was able to go there.
When we explore, we do the same sort of things, right, Gab?
Yeah.
She hits every library in town, whatever town we like going through, like small towns, right? Yeah. Seeing the characteristics of them and get the vibe. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. I know the Warrens were there.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think of all the pictures of the people they had. There's some people that I just don't know, but
Gabrielle probably has a list.
Yeah, definitely a cool vibe to it. I mean, if you got the 5 hours or so to drive from here, it's worth it.
Yeah.
Well, we just made a 5-hour trip
by Lake Erie. Yeah.
We might. Oh, yeah. That's up by.
Yeah.
Kind of up that way. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I was staying in Dunkirk, New York.
Mm-hmm.
So it was right on Lake Erie. So it was really nice because just a different view, and that's what I like about doing these fairs that I do. I'm Lancaster, Harrisburg, Lebanon, Allentown. Sometimes I go a little bit in New Jersey. Sometimes I go a little bit in New York. It really depends on, the event and, how long my travel is. But I'm in Gettysburg almost once a month, and I really enjoy that because there's a shop called Etheric Connections, and they host me once a month to do readings, and sometimes I'll do regressions too. I kind of leave that door open.
Oh, it's cool. We go there a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has its own feel. I wish I had an opportunity to move there and I passed on it, but I kind of regret it a bit. For one, like all my work, a lot of it's south. There's some things here locally. I wish someone would start doing an event around here. They've had them, and then again, COVID really wiped out a lot of things, and sometimes it's hard to come back from that. So I don't see a lot of fairs up here. If I did, I'd be at them. So I do shops. I've done shops around here and the Poconos, and I visit the shop in Gettysburg, and I made it a day trip lately just because of all the driving and everything. Just do that. But sometimes I'll stay for a night and just have like a little mini working vacation, and I really enjoy it. And they do such great work down there. I know the past couple of years they've really been working on maintaining the land and returning it to that time period, 1863. So they're taking down trees where they need to and building this up and whatnot. So they're really doing a great job of getting it back to that time period. And I always like going to Devil's Den.
Yeah,
I got a picture there once, and I just feel connection there. And I was there, I think when I was at my day job, when I was, when I worked with Gabrielle, I had to do some seminar. I'm like, well, I'm at Harrisburg. I'll just run down real quick. I think I had a friend who's in New Oxford, and he was a antique dealer. So I visit him and then run down to Gettysburg, and I get to Devil's Den, and I just feel like I'm being drawn to those boulders, and there's like a little spot under one of them, and I just saw this purple energy just kind of going a little bit back and forth, a little bit back and forth, and I just felt that I was connecting with a Confederate soldier who just didn't know that it was okay to come out.
Wow.
And that's one of the experiences I've had since I've been doing this work. Like before I started doing the spiritual work, the psychic medium readings, I also do Akashic records. Like I mentioned, I do past life regressions, and I do Reiki. Everybody does Reiki, so I got that too.
It's an impressive resume there.
Yeah. I'm trying to build on. I've been getting some shamanic healings lately, which I could talk about that too. They've just been so helpful and just so mind blowing that I feel like I kind of want to start to lean into that too, because once you start to come in contact with people and do readings for them or regressions or Reiki, like you really start to see like, well, what do people need to heal or to understand themselves better? Yeah. And I feel like now I'm learning because this is what happened too for me. I was getting readings before I started offering them. So you get to see what it's like to be the client and what your expectations are and what your experience is. And I feel like maybe I just need to be doing the shamanic healings now and experience it, and then move on to be actually facilitating them. So then I know what to expect, et cetera, et cetera. But I had experiences in Gettysburg, before I started doing readings, and one of them was at the high water mark. It was really weird because it was like September. I went down for my birthday, so September 25th, what was it, 2003 or something like that. But by the time I get there, it's almost dusk. It's a Tuesday. It's, early fall. Everybody should be home, So I go out, and I'm with a girl that I was dating at the time, and we're just poking around. We have our flashlight. I mean, real low budget. Not that we were trying to do anything with it, but just for ourselves, and it's always about proof, I think. And I think that's why, like, I started off that way with my spirituality, was like, and a lot of people need like proof in some way. And even like when they come for reading, like I was kind of hinting on before, like one piece of information that's all they needed, or that confirms everything that they were kind of maybe not seeing in the moment.
For me, I mean, for what we do, me and Gabrielle, I try to rely on my feelings a little bit, but I don't have that sort of gift. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like, for me, it has to be something very visual or audible. Yeah.
And I like the personal experience that you get.
Personal experience that you get, knowing, or sometimes other people get it too.
Yeah.
You could have a group experience, and you never seem to have that camera out to get that, to get that film.
Because that hard evidence is so rare to get.
It's impossible.
It's something that's undeniable.
Yes.
And I've heard and seen evidence 100%. Because I'm not really big on orbs because, I've taken my share of dust pictures.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
I mean, unless there's something crazy going inside of it or it's huge. And I had that happen in Valley Forge where we were near, and I don't really hear a lot of people going to Valley Forge to do investigations like they do at Gettysburg. So that's why I went there too. I don't really want to visit locations and buildings as much as outdoor places, for one, just because they're more accessible.
Yeah.
And I just don't want to be chased out tripping down the stairs or something.
We have found that outdoor places are very active.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we were down at George Washington's quarters in Valley Forge, and I have a picture of this ectoplasm, this smoke, and it's just I feel it's undeniable. But we were near what was this, Matt Anthony Wayne Monument, and it's really cool because I think there's still some original cabins that were built by the colonial soldiers or the Continental Army. So
Wow.
We're there, and the girl I was seeing, this orb just started to get bigger. We're taking a picture, and this orb would get bigger and bigger and bigger. And then me and my buddy that was there, he's taking a picture. So we're going shot for shot. And each time this orb is bigger in his shot and then my shot. So that one, I mean, I'm totally sold on. But
wow.
Yeah, you could kind of tell when it's dust and something floating around.
Yeah, because I took a picture at Gettysburg once, and I was like, oh my God, look at all these spirits. I'm like, Jim, that's dust. Relax.
Yeah, especially in those old basements, like the Wade House and Farnsworth and all that. Yeah. Now, how about light anomalies? Have you had those in Gettysburg?
I don't think I've had them.
We've had orange lights, I think. Yeah. Sorry.
I know that no, it's all right. I was down at Sachs Bridge, which I like going there because I've had experiences there like this one where me and the same buddy were just walking along that stream or creek. Have you guys been to Sachs Bridge?
Well, you're reading me right now, Jim, because I was about to bring up Eisenhower Bridge.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have you hit up Eisenhower Bridge yet?
They call it Suicide Bridge.
I'm trying to think of the geography and what area would that be?
It's nearby. The two bridges are literally 10, maybe 15 minutes apart.
Yeah.
Oh, then I must have been at it. Yeah, I can't recall.
It's a big,
more like a metal bridge.
Steel structure with.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I know which one you're talking about, the covered bridge.
Yeah.
We can't get anywhere near the covered bridge because that is filled with people all the time anymore.
Yeah, you got to pick your time. Usually when I'm there, it's not a big crowd. I get lucky, but we were going down this path along the creek, and we were with this guy, and he told us about one patch where there was a bunch of Native Americans with a carriage because I guess they had been either volunteered or otherwise to help with the Union soldiers. And with Sachs Bridge, that was the retreat of the Confederates. So just imagine all the emotions and loss and hurt and pain and anger and all that passing through over that bridge.
Yeah, we talk about this all the time too, because again, bridges are liminal space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's a passage from one side of a waterway to another, a road. There's a lot of traffic. There's people constantly going back and forth over them. So a lot of a lot of activity.
Yeah, so we were walking down this path, and we met this guy, and he's saying, Native Americans over there with the carriage. We're talking and whatnot, and he's like, "Oh, we gotta go." I'm like, what's wrong? I'm thinking there's a bear or something. He's like, "No, we gotta go." I'm like, all right. And he shows me his camera, and there's a red diamond there.
Oh, wow.
And he's like, that's just not good energy, and we need to go. I'm like, I believe you. But usually when I'm at Gettysburg, I don't have anything terrible happen to me. Some things are definitely perplexing. When I was mentioning the birthday visit, I got to the high water mark, and I get out of the car, and I don't know if you've ever heard the sound of bullets going through branches.
Oh, it probably sounds like a firecracker, I would think, yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you ever, trust me, I'm not a big hunter, but if you use a scatter shot, all these little BBs going, So I was hearing that, I'm like, where's that coming from? And then I swore I heard cannon fire. I'm like, this is just not real.
Yeah.
This is like, like I said, 2003. Like, this isn't real. So, it started to fade away a little bit. And, the girl that I was dating, we're walking and we're just sitting there with the camera and flashlight, low budget, just waiting for something to happen. And then I just hear somebody to my left scream out, "God bless the North Carolina 24th Regiment." And we both turn, and there's two guys in, Confederate clothes just standing there looking at us, and we're looking at them, and they're looking at us. And I have the flashlight on them, and I'm like, well, I don't want to be weird here. Like, I don't want to just blind these guys with my flashlight. So I look away and I look back. They're still standing there. And I said, "Do you need me to, light your path?" And they said, "No, we'll just follow. We'll just walk forward." So they did. And I look back at her, and they're gone when I look back. So
wow.
I either had an experience or somebody just, they got me. But I mean, it's like I said, it's 8:30 on a Tuesday in late September. Like, how many people, unless that's your thing, I feel like I saw spirits. And it took me a year or two to figure out, like, why don't you walk where they went? So I did. I go there pretty often because I like the antiquing and all that too. So I end up in Gettysburg one way or another. So I'm like, I should follow where those spirits went that one time. When I did, there's a monument for the North Carolina 24th Regiment. So
oh, wow.
I felt like it was confirming.
Wow.
So yeah. So I've had experiences at Gettysburg, Valley Forge. I do some home visits. You guys probably done way more than me. For me, I've seen enough paranormal shows that I don't want anything to come home with me.
Mm-hmm.
I also don't know what I'm walking into. Gabrielle knows this from her day job. Like, you don't know what's this house going to look like when I walk in there?
Yeah, that's a little scary to me because we really would like to.
Is there a dog in there?
Yeah.
Are these people, off their rocker?
Are there
what's
guns?
going on?
Yeah.
All that.
Yep.
So
mm-hmm.
when I get a call from somebody, because I want to talk to them, I'm just not going by text or email. So I'll talk to them. I can feel it out when it's genuine and they really need help. Yeah. And I've done it a couple times here and there. I did one home visit for someone and became really good friends with her. And it was just weird. I'd go down into her cellar and I feel a certain way about a certain spot. And years later, she actually ended up being murdered in that home. And where they found her body was the spot where I felt weird. And I felt really bad about it because she had contacted me a couple months beforehand, like right when COVID started. And it's like, no, I'm not coming out for coffee. It's COVID, and, she was murdered in 21.
Oh my God.
Early 21. Like, I sat there like, what if I would have talked to her? Because she said she was having this dream about being attacked in her home. And when I saw in the news that she had been murdered, I'm like, oh my God, could I have done something? I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe, I don't know. So that kind of wore on me for a little bit until, I talked to a couple friends like, Jim, there's just nothing you can do.
Yeah.
So I pulled back a little bit from doing houses. Plus, like, one I did was there was mold there. And I really feel, if you know how mold is, like, it was a toss up for me because I did get information that that they would confirm about the previous owner and his family. So I was getting that, but at the same time, if you guys are investigators, and I've seen enough shows that are thorough, and they say that, with mold, you can have hallucinations,
right?
Delusions.
Right.
And
right.
It was, for me, it was kind of a toss up, but between the information I was getting and seeing and feeling, like, that was legit, but I also feared for these people. And
right.
Well, that's the thing, right? You might
how much is the mold too?
Exactly. Because you might go to do a house visit. It might not affect you because you're not around it all the time, but they are.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I've known people that have had issues with mold in their homes, and it literally turns them a little insane.
Yeah, I had a buddy who's going through that. I don't know if he's insane, but he's not. Well,
insane might be.
I'll say that much.
Might be a little harsh word, but yeah, it definitely affects their mind a little bit.
Yeah, like it affects.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And I had another friend who didn't get the mental part, but the medical part.
Yeah.
So that's I think that was kind of happening in that house a little bit, and I felt bad because this is a home that was in Clark Summit, so they spent money on that home, and now they got to spend more on pretty much gutting it.
Yeah, that's awful.
Yeah, so I do home visits once in a while for those reasons.
Yeah, we've done a few. Like right now, it's friends and family, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, that's why like I much rather an outdoor place to investigate because it's open and I think that the land holds energy. Like I live in Wyoming, so I mean, I don't know, a couple blocks, I have Queen Esther's Rock down the road, and then I have, where Fort was that Fort Jenkins or Fort Pittston, whatever, just down the road from me. So, I live in an area that has had traffic on it for, I don't know, what, 300 years or something. And a battle that took place a little bit further down.
Right.
So there's energy throughout this whole valley. I've heard stories from people, was it the Kirby building at Wilkes and a couple other places. So I don't think you guys have to travel far to find somewhere to investigate.
No,
you
we're
don't.
pretty lucky. Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of history here. Like I feel bad. I wish they would make this area into like a little Gettysburg, because if you know the two battles, the Battle of Wyoming, the Wyoming Massacre, like huge. I feel.
Yeah.
And there's just a lot of energy here. And then you have the coal mining industry and all the deaths and everything like that. It's just, there's a lot of energy here. So yeah, you don't have to travel far. There's a lot of stories here. And I'm just surprised that there's not more. I mean, again, I kind of shift towards the spiritual stuff, but I do feel that me doing those investigations earlier in my life helped me get the proof that I needed. Because now to me, it's, I know, I have no question about it, and, I've had a couple near-death things with me and a couple astral projections, out-of-body experience, and, just witnessing a couple people in my family pass away. Like, it's just given me enough proof that I know that there's something after this. I don't know what exactly it is, but I have a good idea. And I just don't feel like there's one person in charge. So,
Did you have these abilities as a child?
I feel like I did. Sometimes I see these people on TV. I've been doing this since I was 5 years old, and that's great. Sometimes I do envy it, but they're open all the time.
Right.
And so I remember I went to Kistler, which is there in South Wilkes-Barre, and I just remember being out for recess in, like, I don't know, first grade, something like that. And just a lot of the energy of just the kids playing, and I just felt like there's something going on here. They don't know what it is, and I don't know what it is either, but something's going on here. Like I just feel this energy. I feel like I know things about these kids, and I had just, we moved out of the valley for like a year or two. So, kindergarten, first grade I was still getting used to being in Wilkes-Barre. So, I was just getting all this information on kids, and then I'd be invited to little kid parties, and I just couldn't handle it, on that social anxiety. But for me, it was just feeling all this information and energy, but just not being aware of what was really going on.
Right.
So, I wouldn't last long at the parties, and they just stopped inviting me because Jim doesn't last long. Take his present and he'll leave,
Yeah.
But I get that sometimes in large crowds. And again, people want to say social anxiety, and, that's okay. I respect that. But for me, I really feel it's like there's so much energy from all these people. When you're going to a concert, when you're going in the gates and everybody's, it's a herd of cows. Like, I'm feeling some people's happiness, some people's drunkenness, some people's, sadness, whether it's there or at the mall or whatnot. For how much I go to the mall now, but because it's like, just like, tumbleweed going through there anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
But in places like that, I can feel people. Like when I went to Bloomsburg, for college, the latter part, and I would go to parties and whatnot, and I just really just didn't get involved because I just feel everybody.
Right.
And some of the people I didn't really enjoy feeling, and I could feel fake people and the frat boys and the football team and these kind of girls and that kind of girl and whatnot. And just, I think sometimes for me, I get disappointed with what I feel from people, and I just kind of I'm the wallflower sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. I hate crowds.
Because it's a lot to
I hate crowds,
and
take in. I can't imagine. Yeah, I can't imagine having all. It's got to feel like a box of bees going off.
Yeah. And I mean, sometimes that'll happen when I'm at like an antique shop, just because all the energy of the objects, and sometimes not a lot in the cemetery because I don't hang out there like Edgar Allan Poe or anything, but it just depends on where I am. Like when I'm at Gettysburg, I feel like some kind of electricity the whole time, but when I get to a certain place, it amps up.
Yeah.
So it's about learning how to control that. And, some of my jobs too was, I've worked at a facility or two for people with emotional and mental situations going on. And I wonder sometimes about, like, are these people just psychic? And they've told
Right.
they've told their psychiatrist, like, I see things or I hear things, like, all right, schizophrenic, manic depressed, like, and it's not. And it's just that these people don't know, or they don't even conceive it, that it's possible. And, that's why I'm so glad, there's people like you. And, I know the ghost hunters kind of blew the lid off of things, because that's when I started doing it.
Right.
I'm just glad that all this is coming to light more, because now people don't have to feel like they're crazy. Because people, I'll have an appointment, or I'll be at a fair, and they'll be like, this is going to sound crazy. Like, no, it doesn't, because I've either heard about it or I've experienced it myself.
Right.
So
Well, I mean,
it's not crazy.
If you have a mental illness, it's not really a great idea to bottle that up,
Right.
and not seek help and not seek support.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you have this stuff going on, like if you feel like you're picking up on things, maybe you shouldn't ignore it. Maybe you should talk to other people in the community that get it and
absolutely
embrace it.
And that's why I offer classes too, because, like I said, I do seminars when I can. And for how many times I've tried to leave this valley, it keeps, Corleone bringing me back, right?
It's hard to get out of here.
Because it is. And I think for me, at least in my situation, it's because not everyone knows to go to these places. Not everyone has the time. Not everyone has the money or, capacity, whatnot. So I go out and I get the information, I get the experience, and I bring it back to share with people, whether it's to, give them a message that they're seeking, or give them guidance, or, past life regression to help them learn more about their soul's journey, or the Reiki or whatnot. I bring it back here for them. And that's why I like to offer classes too, because there's so many people, just the longer I do this, there's so many people that have these abilities. Like, some people say gift, and I just really feel like a gift is something that you give to someone. Like, these are all natural born talents.
Yeah.
Right.
Even like when I first started, when Gabrielle started, we started almost around the same time. So we just started talking the one day, and she's like, I'm an empath. Like, she had to whisper it. And I totally got it. I thought it was cute and funny, but I mean, it's like that sometimes, but it's been like that for a long time.
Yeah.
What's
you guys
weird
are younger
because,
than me, but I'm going to be 50 soon. And it's, I can remember when I wouldn't want to say anything, because I didn't want people to mock me, or I thought I was crazy, because I could have been doing these readings 20 some years ago, 30 years ago.
Gabrielle would always say, hey, I'm empathic. She would always say that, and I would always look at her, you're crazy. But she totally picks up on a vibe of an area.
She even totally actually, funny enough, we were on an investigation Saturday night, and location was a like a personal care home at one time. So we're in there, we're investigating, and we didn't even talk about this until just recently, because I was like, what was happening to me in this place? It just had a really nice, like, comfortable vibe. Like, you didn't have a bad feeling in there. Yeah. It just felt really comfortable. And I started to get like flashes, like I was in the nursing home and it was operating and the lights were on and people were walking around and people were getting their meals and people were getting their medication. And like, it would like, I get a flash and then it'd go away. And I'd get a flash of like a scene and it would be gone. And I was like, what in the world is happening to me? But it was like, everybody was saying that. They were saying there was just like a really nice feeling there, that everybody there was like cared for and they really liked being there. Yeah.
Well, it's funny that you bring that up, because this was back in February. I did like a little event at a nursing home up in Clark Summit, and just being able to kind of read people and I do this when I'm at fairs sometimes too. It's like I have to ignore other spirits that I know are not. Once I get a sense or a client tells me, like, I can figure out, like, all right, there's a spirit here, but they are not. There's no association here. So I had I did one at the nursing home, and it was a bit of a challenge just to block out other spirits who wanted to come through. But like the first reading I did was for someone who worked there, and I was connecting with a patient that she had a really good bond with. So that was cool.
That's
That
cool.
is nice.
Yeah, I've done readings at funeral homes, which is a little weird because I would take a break and, use the restroom or something and get some fresh air. And I kept seeing this one old woman standing next to a casket. And I mentioned it finally after like the third time to the person running the funeral home, like, oh, yeah, that's whomever. I think one of the old owners, because it was like a family-owned funeral home up in Pecksville for like generations. So yeah, that was like her great-great-grandmother or something like that.
Yeah, I don't like funeral homes. They just have a horrible vibe.
Yeah, so I mean, I've done readings at some places like that are different, and I like it. Sometimes I'll get invited to like a gated community, and sometimes I do little parties too. So people can schedule me for that as well. And I like those because I think people know when their family needs something. So they'll get, it'll be like a ladies' night or, a bachelorette party and stuff. And just to help people, especially with the bachelorette parties, just, the next couple months, how's this marriage going to be, or yada, yada. How's the wedding going to go and all that. So it's nice to be able to give information on that, and, babies, all that.
I'm actually surprised to hear a lot of this, that people are actually like inviting you out to all these different events.
I like it.
What I picture is someone sitting in a like a parlor, right? Like
you
the
picture all the
teller.
way back to like spiritualism.
That's what, exactly.
Yeah.
Not these modern times.
Modern times, having people invite you out to their, their wedding or their bar mitzvah or whatever, just to do these readings. That's amazing. That's awesome.
No, I like it. Sometimes, like one that I did a couple months ago was they had family in from Jersey or something. So they had seen me before and their family was in. They're like, can you just come to the house? And for them, I did like a little gallery because they're all family. They know. They've been changing this one's diaper and help, all that. So everybody knows everybody. There's no secrets. So I'll just go, I'll try and do 15 minutes or so with this person. Like when I do galleries, I try to keep it to 10, 20 people just because I just want everybody to get something, and I can't guarantee that I get to everybody. I feel bad that I don't get to them because I know what they're there for. Some people are like, well, it's a group experience. Yeah, I get that, but I want to be read, not to sound rude, but I don't care about you. I'm there for me, so I don't want someone to feel that way either. So if I do galleries, I keep them to a small number so I can try and get to everybody as much as possible. Because you'll see John Edwards or whatever her name is, Caputo and all those other ones.
Yeah.
I like Kim Russo. I think Kim Russo, I like her a lot. She seems the realist to me. But anyway, you can pack the Kirby Center.
Yeah.
How many people are actually getting something? Maybe 8.
Right.
After the pomp and circumstance and everything else, you're getting maybe 8 people for a couple minutes apiece. Meanwhile, there's hundreds sitting there.
They're all left out. They feel left out.
Yeah. If you're on the balcony, I'm sorry, you're not getting a reading. Don't even buy the ticket.
That's funny.
But so I'll do private parties, and like I said, sometimes it's a bachelorette party or a birthday party. I like being I like being a gift. I think that's for someone to want to do something a little bit different and maybe do something that somebody has always wanted to do, but were afraid or never had the money or never had the time. That's when, because I do offer gift certificates too. And I just like when I'm part of a gift to someone, because that makes me feel, for one, like, you got to be tip top shape, do your push-ups and stuff and get ready. But it's the fact that, once they're being spiritual, not material, you can buy somebody whatever you want. You're buying someone an experience. And I don't want to sound ego here, but like I sell an experience. I mean, when you get down to it, I'm not selling crystals or essential oils. It doesn't come from me. It's not me, but it comes through me.
Right.
And that's why, again, I do these seminars and why I do my meditations and just try and be as clear as possible for people. So when they come here, I can be the best that I can. I'm not going to be 100% every time. I know that, but it's on me to try to be. But I also need my clients to, relax. You're here for a reason. Okay. There's nothing to be worried about, because some people get anxious, and I totally get it. Sometimes I do too, because it depends on what you're coming for. Again, not to go back, but just what I had mentioned before a little bit, like if someone's coming to hear from someone that's passed away, recently or a long time ago and they really miss them, like there's some anxiety there, an expectation. I totally get that because I've been there. If you're going through a bad relationship, transition, you're hoping to hear that you're going to get through this, that there's someone waiting for you. Like,
yeah.
And I used to not do, like, people would call me for that relationship readings and I would not do them because I was like, there's more important things than that. But I kept getting calls for it. And then I realized after a while, like, they're just seeking guidance and insight. Sometimes they want to know the name of the person or what they're going to look like. And I can look into that, but, maybe you're repeating patterns here. My hand's up. I'm guilty. Maybe there's a pattern that you're repeating and you're not seeing it. And your spirit guides or grandma is trying to say, hey, honey, you need to stop pursuing this kind of person, or you need to, build up your energy and work on this aspect of yourself so you attract that person. Things of that nature. People come to me for lawsuits and estates and stuff, and I feel bad hearing about all those things, but I give them as much guidance as I can. And that's the thing too, for me with my readings, they only go out so far. I might go a year or two out, but it's a lot about this cycle and the cycle to come. So we're only talking about maybe 6 months or so out, depending on what they want to tell me. And again, when I say they, the spirit guides or ancestral guides, because again, some people have certain expectations and I hope to fulfill them, but maybe you're wanting too much and you're not wanting what you really need now, which is sometimes the truth. Sometimes is being laid out to say, you're behaving or you're saying you're doing these certain things, these need to change. And they'll be like, well, how'd you know that? Well, they see it and they're telling me that they see this and it needs to stop.
So it's you'll have clients that come to you looking for specific information, but the guides are only willing to give what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. For me, I feel like we're given the information that we need right now and to come. Because if we're given too much information, just think about, when I go shopping, I don't get a shopping cart. I don't even get the little basket. So just think about trying to carry a whole bunch of groceries all at the same time, all these things that you need or pieces of information or guidance. If you're carrying them, you might start dropping one or two that you really need. Or if you get this information too early, it might be,
it might not make sense.
Circle in the square. Yeah. Or you use it on something that was not even applicable, where you shouldn't have even taken that and used it there. So they just give us a little bit what we need when we need it.
Have you ever gotten warnings?
For myself or for clients?
For clients.
I have, and it's about how I present it to them, because with my readings, I work in the light. So when I say that, this is about, truth, purity, honesty. I don't work in the dark. I get calls about spells. I got one last week. Like, that's just not my thing. I've been told a couple and whatnot, but I work in the light. So when I see this, someone maybe, sometimes I get this, one of the clairs where I'm feeling someone's pain. So this might be like in the stomach or in the back or in the chest. And I have to say, like, I'm getting the sensation. I feel like it's pertaining to you. And I'll say, yeah, I have this thing going. Like, are you checking into it? Well, no. Like, okay, well, let's get to the doctor and pay the $20 deductible and find out that you're fine. But I feel like they're saying you need to go because there's something more here. And not that it's going to turn into something terrible, but if we don't address things as soon as possible, then it may be. And that's a lot with what the information that I give is based on where you are right now and based on what they are passing on to me, to you. When you apply these things, it goes X, Y, and Z. You don't do these things, it might be RST. ABC, whatever you want to say. So sometimes they just want to give warnings, like they should really get this looked at.
Yeah.
How do you prepare for a reading?
What I've done in the past is I used to, depending on if there was a home visit, out of my home office, I would take maybe 15, 20 minutes and write down my next client's name and just meditate on that name. And I may get a vision, I may get a thought, I might get a sensation, and I would just write this down and have this information ready for them. And for me, in the beginning, that was like the whole proof thing that we've talked about. And generally, when I would offer these notes that I meditated on, everything was where it was, 100%. And, if it's a half-hour session, the notes might last me 10, 15 minutes, but at least lets me know where I am. They know where I am. And more information might come as I keep going, because that's generally how it goes. It's just that you make that link, that connection, and you get the surface information, you dig a little bit deeper, they give you more, et cetera, et cetera. So I used to meditate, 15, 20 minutes on my next client, but that's not always possible. And, for me, I'm a Libra on the cusp of Virgo, and things have to be a certain way. And I just always felt like I have to do this every time. And when I couldn't, I was like, oh, I don't know if I could do it. That, in the beginning, of course. But I got a reading from a friend of mine. She was in Alaska. I was in Pennsylvania, and she got a connection with a great grandfather of mine, and said, you don't need that process anymore. You're fine. You can do it if you like. Maybe you don't have to do it every time. And don't worry if you don't do it in between people. Don't worry if you don't do it at all. So I took his advice, and I'll do it here and there. I'll do it when maybe I'm feeling a little bit not so fresh.
Gotcha.
I'll take 15, 20 minutes. I'll do that definitely before a phone and a Zoom reading, because again, I'm working with distance here, not energy in front of me. So before a call and a Zoom reading, I'll definitely make time for that 15, 20.
Cool. Yeah.
When I do the fairs, I like, most of them have like a little opening ceremony, which is so cool. Maybe it's someone who has native heritage, or at least, practice that. They'll come out with a drum and do that, and some chants and everything, and holding hands with everybody. And I could totally feel a charge there. So I enjoy when we do that. But if we do or don't, there does come a point in the day where I could be doing a couple of people, boom, 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 one right after another. And now that I'm talking about it, it's just coming in contact with all these energies, one right after another. You know what I mean? Because it's kind of like McDonald's in a way. They show up, I read, and then everybody else. There's vendors on my left and right, and then there's people walking by. So there's a lot of energy that I come in contact with. So I have to take that moment. Like I said, I do a little introduction. I tell us to take a moment to center ourselves. I need to do that definitely at a fair, just to connect with the person that's in front of me. But I'll do like 4 people in a row, take a break, so on and so on. And sometimes I need to go outside.
Sure, get some fresh air, right?
Yeah.
Take a break.
What I've been doing lately, which has been very helpful, is just, when I'm out there, not just have a cigarette or just, stand there like Ben Affleck, like it's touch the earth, get that energy. And if there's a tree nearby, all right, you don't have to hug it, Jim, but at least put your hand on it and just get that natural energy back. And it's been very helpful. I did that I was at Solace Farms Retreat down near Philadelphia or something. And I was doing that, holding on to the tree, and it is very helpful. So, there's a lot of ways that readers and energy healers in general have to be able to find a way to clear themselves and power themselves up. It's not that people are sucking our energy. We're just coming in contact with so much.
How do you power yourself down?
Yeah. And some of it isn't happy. Some of it's depressed. Some of it's in mourning.
Yeah.
Some of it's, something else. It's not always good energy. And that's, one thing that I do mention to people, when necessary, is when the topic comes up, especially about being empathic. I think people like to use the term psychic vampire because it sounds sexy, but I just don't really, I don't put a lot of energy into that, because I don't feel people can take our energy. I feel like what happens is we absorb theirs.
Yeah.
And that's where the draw comes down, because I have some family members, I love them, but I can't be around them because I'm feeling their energy.
Right.
And it may be the thing that we were talking about before, being out in the crowds, like we're absorbing it. Some people don't even know they're exuding this energy. So I don't feel like people who are not hip to this, or just maybe not as strong or knowledgeable, I don't feel like they knowingly do that.
So it's like the guy walking down the street with their cell phone with the playing music on their speaker. Everybody's getting it. You don't necessarily want it, but you're getting it.
Right. Yeah. That's a good way to,
Yeah. So, I have to battle that sometimes depending on what environment I'm in, but I just feel like we can absorb. So it's, there was one philosophy that I was told about to, guard, you have to guard yourself, pull in your energy, put up a bubble. And recently, I've been working with the Greenshire Institute in Quakertown, where I've been getting my shamanic healings, which have been very helpful. But one thing that Arlene, the founder and one of the healers there, said that it's not about putting up this wall or this bubble. You're drawing in your energy. It's about you sending your energy out. And it's almost like, I don't know if you want to say like an oil water thing, but trying to combat it a little bit.
Yeah.
Not like a, but battle of good and evil thing, but I mean, put your good energy out and it'll push that energy back. And maybe when you put out that good energy, it gets through that negative energy and that person maybe changes in some way, rather than just bottle myself up. So
right, and give them the power. Yeah. I mean, people do it all the time, and some people are cognizant, and some people have no idea that you just healed someone by smiling at them or saying something really nice, whether that's your job or you did it in passing. So,
well, funny story. We were at the grocery store last week, and I ran into an old friend of mine, and I haven't seen her in over a year. So I was like, "Oh my God, come here!" I gave her a hug and all that. And this lady right next to us goes, "Do I get a hug too?" I said, "Do you want a hug?" And she's like, "Yeah, I want a hug." I gave the lady a hug.
Yeah.
I don't know what she's going through. I have no idea what this woman's going through. She asked for a hug. She was genuinely sincere about it. And I said, "Okay, I'll give you a hug." Everybody's looking at me like I'm weird, but whatever.
Oh, that's what I do. If someone inquires, well, then I provide. Just, after COVID and other things, like if someone wants a hug, then yes, I will offer that up. And, sometimes people offer me and I'll take it, because you do get this energetic feeling going on when you connect with someone that way.
Yeah.
So, sometimes when I'm at these fairs, I stop over and get some Reiki from someone, or I'll stop over someone's booth who I know is a healer, and I will ask for a hug, and they're more than happy to, and I get that recharge, go back and start doing some readings again.
That's cool.
Yeah.
What is your favorite self-care routine or ritual?
I think I'm big on water. So if it's, a really hot tub filled up with water, that makes me feel really good. Especially it's almost like Pink Floyd The Wall. Like when I come back from like a weekend away somewhere, it's like Rockstar just laying in the hot tub. But that's when I'll get to recharge. That's when I may have an epiphany. That's when I may be told or discovered on my own like a new way to do something, whether it's a service or something on my website or a promotional idea or a place I should check out. Or if it's personal stuff too, like, Jim, you need to work on this and whatnot. So a nice hot bath is always therapeutic for me. And, if I could find somewhere around here to jump in a creek or a pond or whatnot, not get arrested, that's like, I'll go up to the tubs. I like going up to the tubs, and I don't want to give away my places, but I'm sure other people are there.
Yeah, it's hard. I know exactly what you mean by giving away places, because we have a place that we go to, and I don't want to mention the name because I don't want to ruin it.
The spot. Yeah, right.
Exactly.
But there's a couple places, and again, I know other people go there, but anyway, I go there and just dunk underwater. And one thing that was helpful to me early on is, I just want to make this strong connection. What can I do to block out, the left side of my brain, or the car that just backfired in front of my house, or the person mowing the lawn, or somebody calling a raffle winner at an event? Like, how do I block this out? And I'm a Bruce Lee fan, and I just dunked myself. And as I was under the water, like, I could hear nothing. And I just heard Bruce Lee say, "Be water, my friend." I mean, he has a whole little awesome phrase, but that part of that awesome phrase just came to me. It's like, be like water, meaning the sound that you're hearing, which is nothing, which is muffled, try to achieve that when you're doing a reading, and then everything is blocked out. It's this muffled sound, and then the spirit can come through. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because sometimes I do that too when it comes to my sight. Like, I don't, I'll look people in the eyes, but sometimes I have to look off to the side because that's where my attention's going, or I need to focus to really, really see something or really, really hear something. So, sometimes they're just sitting there looking at me. And again, I can't just sit there and stare them in the eyes all the time because I need to focus in some way. So I might look off, and it just helps me see this scenario or this snapshot in time, this memory, or be able to hear something clear. Because sometimes they're talking to me and I catch maybe 70%, and then I got to say, can you please say that again? I didn't, things like that. And sometimes it's me not being strong enough, or my client, or the spirit coming through, because sometimes they don't know what this is,
Yeah.
Now, is it something that you could open and close yourself to it, or is it something that's constantly being bombarded, like coming at you?
For the most part, I feel like I close it down, but there's times when it opens on its own. Early on, I was just going around, passing my business cards around. Wyoming used to be like the consignment capital of the valley, but so I went to this one shop, and I just kept getting this name. What was it? Alina, something like that. And it just kept coming and coming and coming. And I just finally had to say, like, I'm getting this name. I don't know, this is a relative of yours. And she's like, no, was the name of the shop before I moved in here. So sometimes I get information when I don't want it. Like, I was doing laundry the one day, and there was some priest in there, and I just felt like I had to talk about World War I with him. And I'm just like, I'm not doing this right here. Because you never know where you're catching somebody.
Right.
Right.
I could be over at Garrity's and feel someone's grandmother saying, tell her that I'm okay, or tell her I said hello. And I don't know where I'm catching them. Have they processed this person passing away? Is this going to break them? Is this going to send them into a are they going to become an alcoholic? You know what I mean? Like, is this going to throw them off their track, or is this going to help them? And I'm not about to flip a coin on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
Some of these seminars do try and teach us like ways to do this, ways to present the information. Like, there's some readers out there that are very blunt, and, there's some readers who will drop certain words that I'm not going to do unless I really, really have to. And especially if it's, a one-on-one, I feel okay with that, but I don't like to use colorful words unless somehow it fits in some way and it's pertinent to the reading. But sometimes you have to present certain information a certain way because, again, I'm never going to be 100%. And maybe I'm just not seeing something clearly enough. And I don't want to hurt somebody's feelings and use a certain word. So I got to watch what your words I use too.
Yeah. Yeah. I
have to have a thesaurus up here to think about what's the politest, nicest way to describe something that's not polite.
Right.
And, and I used to do drawings with my readings, and I stopped because, for one, I just felt like I was getting distracted because I'm trying to keep my client's attention. I'm trying to get information, and then I'm trying to draw, and I'm drawing. And like I said about my zodiac sign, like, it's got to be this way. So like now I'm fooling around with this, drawing somebody, and I'm losing my connection with the client. I'm losing my connection with the spirit because I'm too worried about how someone's face has to look.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to insult somebody and draw their mom's nose really big. Like, I don't want to be doing like Picasso stuff, but I want to try and be as accurate as possible because
spiritual caricatures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to do that, but I know I'm not Da Vinci either. So it's like, I got to do this as quick as possible. And I stopped doing that just because, again, I felt like I was focusing way much on the drawing, and then I might show them something and maybe I, again, made the nose a different way. They're like, no, but everything else is lining up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the flick of my pen could change something. So I just don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do if it's really important.
One last thing. I would like any advice you could give someone who may have these experiences, or I shouldn't say experiences, abilities, right? But they're afraid to talk about it. How would you go ahead and fine tune those abilities?
On their own, or you mean me working with them?
In general, on their own, if they want to, if they think that they have abilities, how would they go about working those abilities to kind of fine tune them and get to the point where I guess you would be at, where you're offering advice?
Sure. I feel like one thing that was very helpful to me was, for one, I was taught to, or, I had a meditation class to meet with my spirit guides. And I feel like that's very important, to have a good connection with our spirit guides. We have many spirit guides, but we have 5 main guides. We have our joy guide, who's there for moments of despair or moments when we achieve, to kind of pat us on the back. And this is going to be a child or an animal, because you guys are parents, you guys have pets, endless supply of energy, happiness, no judgment, good souls. So generally the joy guide is going to be one of those characters. Then we have a protector guide who protects us emotionally, spiritually, physically. And that's going to be someone who has served as a protector, whether it's a soldier, policeman, fireman. And our teacher guide who teaches us the way of the universe, our doctor guide who watches out for our health, and a master guide who's like the supervisor. So they all work together, and they have their own separate meetings and staff meetings talking about how they're going to counsel us. So to have a really good connection with our spirit guides is very important because, for one, the source of the information. It's a spirit guide. I heard somebody say, "Oh, they play tricks on you." No, no, they don't.
No.
You might think they do and be like, "Why? Why did I have to go all the way around instead of taking that straight line?" But they're there to guide us, and they're from day one till our last day. And they must have lived at least one human life to know how to counsel us, because it's, you talk about Roman Catholic. Those priests can't get married, but on Sunday they're trying to tell our parents how to have a good marriage. Like, he doesn't know the ins and outs of having kids and whatnot. So how, with your guides, where it's coming from, and they've been human, and you can trust that information more, because that's what a lot of people do. That's what I did for a long time, is not trust what was coming through. I would think that, I'm stressed out, or I didn't get a lot of sleep, or I'm overworked, or I had a couple of drinks, or that was the wind, or that was the dog, or that's just irony. But one thing I did early on in my work, on my journey, was I was just sitting there on the couch and like, I need proof, just like we talked about before. I need proof. And they said, Jim, you're going to prove this to yourself, because this is what you're going to do. You're going to get a pen and a pad, and you're going to write down every single experience that you've had, spiritual, paranormal, whatever you want to call it, supernatural, extraordinary. Write all these things down. Write a sentence, maybe a paragraph. And, for me, I have a pretty good memory. So, I went from, I think I was 40 at that point, as far back as I could remember. Just a sentence or two, just describing, I saw this the one day, or I felt this, or I had this dream that came true. And I feel when we are able to document this for ourselves, you get to see like, wow, this is happening way more often than I thought it was. And it's also happening in these ways. So now you know where you're strong. If you have, 20 experiences, and 13 of them are more visual, then that's how you know that you're stronger in that area. So tell the universe, your spirit guides, your ancestral guides, whomever that you want to work with, send me visual messages, because it seems like I'm receiving them more than hearing or feeling. So I feel like that's important to find out where are your strong points. And of course, you can work on the weak ones too, but like I mentioned before, I don't want to smell and taste everything.
Right.
So I feel everything for me is where it should be. So if there's an area someone has to work on, they know where to work on, and that's up to them. Another thing was, trying to get connected with the spiritual community. And I feel like that was huge for me, because again, things have evolved over time, but to have someone that you can ask a question to and not feel silly or crazy or whatever adjective, to have someone like that is very helpful. So, you're going to find these people at fairs, and there's metaphysical shops around here. And, it can be a circus. It could be a family. It could be a lot of things, but, you're going to find people that can help you. And if they can't help you, they're going to find someone for you. And that's how people come to me. And if there's something I can't do or don't do, I pass them on to somebody else. So that's why I try to be as varied as possible. There's so many names and so many genres and so many services out there to provide to people, holistically, spiritually. And I try to offer as many as I can, without, offering something that one person's going to want.
Right.
But trying to at least have something for someone that could help you in some way. And if it's not enough, I probably know someone. And I made a lot of good friends in the spiritual community, have been, mentors in some way, or help me spiritually or personally or whatever. And that's why I like these fairs, because again, it's a little bit of a circus. You see the people you've been seeing for years, and everybody's cool and get along. You meet somebody new, and somebody's, this is our last show, they're retiring or whatever. It's just really nice to have that kind of family and that kind of connection with the people, because again, they help heal me. And there's times when maybe I'm not feeling my best, and someone makes an appointment. I'm like, man, I don't want to do this, but this person reached out to me, and I can't deny them wanting to come here. So as long as I'm not, medically sick, I'll see somebody. And generally on those days, that's a great reading. And I get something out of it too. And it's a message that, Jim, you got to work through this because people need you. So I try not to cancel. I try to be everywhere I can be. And I just enjoy the travels a lot. As long as my car can keep up with me. I like it.
That's great. So Jim,
Mm-hmm.
can we drop some of your socials on here, your website, email, anything like that?
Sure.
Go for it.
My website is spiritualservicesllc.com. And on my website, you can schedule a psychic medium reading. I do Akashic record readings as well. You can do a past life regression. You could also do a spirit guide meditation where I kind of lead you into these places. I know I talked about spirit guides before. I just kind of lead you into these places where they will be. I also do Reiki. I also do Reiki in a reading where I kind of cleanse your energy, get familiar with your energy, and then do a reading. And sometimes I do some dream interpretation too. And I offer classes as well for people who are just starting out, because I feel, there's learning one-on-one with someone, and then there's something to be said about group learning as well.
Mm-hmm.
So people can get a one-on-one and work with me. Sometimes I get some groups together too. But you can go on to spiritualservicesllc.com to schedule a session with me. If you have a question, you can shoot me an email to you. I'm also on Facebook. Same thing, Spiritual Services LLC. I have my YouTube channel, and I would like to do more videos in time. It's just, we were talking about it before, just being literally and figuratively a production. So it's like, I would love to make it these Hollywood movies that I see sometimes, these people doing stuff on YouTube.
It's a lot of work.
Like, wow. Yeah, right? And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah. So, but I enjoy, just being a resource for someone too. If someone just went on my website that had a question, I answered it, and that's all they needed, that's okay. Because like I said before, it's taken a lot of time and evolution for this to be more mainstream and more open and people not feel a certain way about it. So if they read a blog or watch one of my videos and I answer this question, they don't have to come see me. That's okay. But I've had people say that they've read or watched my videos and they just felt a good connection there. They felt like they could trust me and they felt comfortable, and that brought them in. So you got to do all those things like Instagram, TikTok, the other 15 million out there. I'm getting there, but it's just a lot of Facebook and YouTube and my website, really.
And pulling all of it together, it's crazy.
It is. Like, I would literally need an assistant.
Yep.
Yeah.
And like sometimes it's like, how do I promote this? It's not like a crystal or essential oil. This is just me. Like, how do I?
You could come on our podcast whenever you want.
Yeah.
That's a way to do it.
Honestly,
that's true.
I don't know how many viewers we got, but
well, you send me this and I'll post it on mine. I'll post a couple places and we'll work on that.
Yeah, I will do that. Would you consider going on an investigation with us?
Yeah. You just got to let me know when. Like I said, a lot of my weekends are spoken for.
Yep.
But some Fridays or whatnot, just throw a date at me and let me know where, and I would do that. I mean, definitely I would like to you guys know about the place and let me walk through it maybe, or just if you're feeling something, I can let you know what I'm feeling or whatnot. I think that'd be really cool. I would like to do that as long as we do like a little circle beforehand. I'm good.
So we have a local spot that we go to that we really are very curious what we have been interacting with there.
Okay.
And we feel like we just can't pinpoint what is there.
Mm-hmm.
So we'd love to bring you out with us.
Yeah. Just throw me a date and we can make it happen.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate the invitation. And yeah, you let me know when you want me to come back. And if you're ever looking for someone who does a certain specialty, you're welcome to ask, like, hey, we're looking for somebody who does this. And I can help you out if you don't know somebody offhand.
Sounds good.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Jim, thank you for being our guest.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on, being our first guest.
No problem.
It was great.
Awesome. Well,
this
thanks
was great.
for having me.
Yeah,
absolutely. I look forward to coming back on.
That was a really fascinating conversation that we had with Jim. And I really want to thank him for sharing his insights and experiences with us. It has really definitely changed my perspective when it comes to like psychic mediums. Mm-hmm. It was like really an interesting look like into his mind. And
yeah, I mean, like what a great interview.
Yeah,
honestly.
That was fantastic.
Yeah. Might have to bring Jim on as a host. I don't know. He did a lot of talking there. So
he definitely has to come back. Yes, I think we have to go and investigate with him.
Yeah.
We really hope that you enjoyed this episode here with us for Podcast of the Paranormal. If you did, please consider subscribing, leaving us a review. It does help other people find our show. You could also connect to us on social media. We have handles for our podcast. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Podcast of the Paranormal. You could even let us know your thoughts of the episode, suggest future topics to us, share your stories with us, really anything you want. And just remember, keep an open mind to the mysteries that do surround us. And next time, hopefully we'll have Jeff with us. Thank you.
All right. Thank you guys for listening.